These are the most interesting vintage and unusual items from the past. Let's get 6,000 subscriptions. Enjoy watching. London, early 1930s. The pramobile was a combination of a baby carriage and a pedal mechanism for the mother, which made it possible to simultaneously transport the child and move faster than on foot. Great Britain, 1936. A beauty contest in which the participants covered their faces with sheets of paper, leaving only their eyes visible. The jury evaluated exclusively the shape, color, and expressiveness of the look, excluding the influence of other facial features. Geneva, 1979. Swiss psychologist and philosopher Jean Piaget, the author of the theory of cognitive development, is pictured in his home office surrounded by thousands of books and papers. USA, 1999. The electric cosmetic mask was designed to stimulate facial muscles and smooth out wrinkles using weak electrical impulses. The photo series of the 19th century shows 3 stages of a man's intoxication, from a confident stance to a noticeable loss of coordination and a complete loss of the ability to stand on his feet. Oak Island off the coast of Nova Scotia is known for its Money Pit, a deep, complex mine discovered in 1795. According to legend, untold treasures are hidden in the depths, but attempts to reach them are interrupted by the sudden flooding of the mine. USA, 1865-1902. Annie Jones. Elliot is a bearded woman who has performed in P.T. Barnum's troupe since childhood and became one of the most famous circus performers of the 19th century. Tokyo, 1932. Yasutaro Mitsui demonstrates a humanoid steel robot capable of turning its head, raising its arms, and imitating gestures, becoming one of the symbols of early Japanese robotics. USA, 1944. The mechanical device with straps was designed to correct the shape of the nose without surgery, but its effectiveness has not been proven. Found in 1936 in the area of ancient Mesopotamia, the Baghdad battery is a clay vessel with a copper cylinder and an iron rod inside. According to the researchers, acid was poured inside, and the device could generate electricity. In 1945, a fire destroyed the Sauter family home, and 5 children disappeared, their bodies never found. The parents assumed that the fire was arson, and the children were abducted, possibly because of their father's political statements. In 1967, the mother received a photo of a man who looked like Louis' son, but it was not possible to find out his identity. In 1911, the first escalator was launched on the London Underground, and employee William Harris rode it to demonstrate its safety. Later, while working as an engineer at Charing Cross Station, he received as a gift a cane made of ancient oak found during construction, which is now kept in the London Transport Museum. A 100-year-old nurse's medical kit with ampules of cocaine hydrochloride and a syringe, then used as an anesthetic and painkiller. Hollywood, 1937. Rehearsing the kissing scene during the flu epidemic, the actors used special masks to prevent transmission of the infection. London, the 1960s. Police officers restrain a crowd of female fans of the Beatles, seized by mass hysteria during one of the band's public appearances. Toulouse, France, May 25, 1954. A pair of tightrope walkers holds a wedding ceremony at a height of 20 meters, balancing on a rope above the streets of the city. Italy, the 1950s. A motorcycle race with sidecars where passengers, balancing their bodies, help the pilots make turns at high speed. USA, February 8, 1953. Tests of a height-compensating suit in a pressure chamber at a pressure equivalent to an altitude of 19 kilometers when water boils at human body temperature. California, 1961. The robot Mobot, developed by Hughes Aircraft Electronic Labs, was designed to help women get dressed, demonstrating the possibilities of automating everyday tasks. The year is 1925, an unusual race in which a motorcycle pulls a sidecar styled like an antique chariot. The pilot controls the motorcycle, and the passenger in the sidecar acts as the driver, holding the reins. The decorative door lock, made by master Frank Korolevsky in 1911, combines gold, silver, and bronze. It features detailed carvings of scenes, ornaments, and figures that transform a utilitarian object into a work of art. The year is 1921. Waitress Lillian Boyer, having taken to the air for the first time, decided on a trick and climbed onto the wing of an airplane right during the flight, starting her career as an aerial acrobat. USA, 1975. Serial killer Ted Bundy, pictured at a birthday party, helps wash the dishes, hiding behind his charming image. The V-shaped bed, created in 1932, provided uniform support for the body and improved the quality of rest. In its normal state, it remained straight, like a standard bed. With a single push on the side chain, the structure quickly turned into a V-shape. The Queen of Tobacco contest in North Carolina, 1950s. The participants pose in swimsuits made of tobacco leaves, holding a large leaf in their hands. The event was part of an advertising campaign by the tobacco industry in the region. A chef in a uniform and a hat is skiing on a snowy road to work. The picture was taken in Scotland in 1932, when snowfall made travel difficult. Norwegian female workers prepare barrels for salting herring in 1937. They tilt inwards to evenly lay a layer of salt on the bottom. This stage was necessary for long-term storage of fish. In 1907, Count Henri de Laval tests an anti-shock suit before flying on a Victor Tétén monoplane. The equipment was designed to protect the pilot during an emergency landing. Earlier, in 1900, de Laval set a world record for the longest flight in a hot air balloon, covering 1,200 miles in 35 hours and 45 minutes. Archaeologists have discovered this artificial eye in a 5,000-year-old burial site in Jiroft, Iran. The eye is made of a mixture of bitumen and animal fat, with gold threads to simulate capillaries. The find is considered to be the oldest known prosthetic eye in history. Bertha Benz, the wife of inventor Carl Benz, became the first woman to drive a car for a long time in 1888. She traveled about 106 kilometers from Mannheim to Pforzheim to prove the practicality of her husband's invention. Carpet drying on the slopes in Tehran, Iran, 1972. Carpets were laid out in the sun for cleaning and color renewal after washing. This method was used in both industrial and home workshops. The tall tree houses of the indigenous peoples of Papua New Guinea were built at a height of up to 40 meters to protect them from floods, wild animals, and hostile tribes. The structure was built of bamboo, vines, and wood, with a light roof made of palm leaves. The Mormillon-type gladiator helmet found in Pompeii dates back to the 1st century AD. It is made of bronze. It has a characteristic lattice mask to protect the face and is decorated with relief images. Tim Curry under an umbrella on the set of the television series based on Stephen King's novel It, 1990. Gene Jansen, a famous American bodybuilder of the 1940s, and his wife Pat Johnson demonstrate strength exercises with their 11-month-old son, Kent. The photo was taken in 1947 and reflects the popularity of physical education and body culture in post-war America. The world's largest Underwood master typewriter was presented at the 1939-1940 New York World's Fair. To demonstrate its scale, an elephant named Jenny, who worked in the Frank Buck Show, was placed nearby. The machine was fully functional and was used to print huge texts. In 1963, experiments were conducted in France as part of the space program to prepare animals for space flights. The photo shows cats in special restraint systems designed to simulate flight conditions and collect data on the body's reaction. In 1956, Francis Delafield Hospital in New York used an advanced X-ray unit with a capacity of 2 million electron volts at that time. Such equipment was used for deep radiation therapy of malignant tumors. In 1950, Peruvian researchers conducted experiments with coca leaf extract, studying its effects on the health and behavior of warm-blooded animals. The photo shows how the dogs line up to receive a dose of the drug. In 1933, volcanologist Arpad Kerner descended by rope to the crater of the active volcano Stromboli in Italy. This risky method allowed scientists to directly observe and collect samples of volcanic gases and rocks. The first prototype AN-T-1 aircraft, designed by A.N. Tupolev, which made its maiden flight on October 21, 1923. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake caused large-scale fires that destroyed a significant part of the city. In the photo, residents watch clouds of smoke rising from the destroyed neighborhoods. A teenager performs a jump on a moped over lying friends in the courtyard of a residential area, USA, 1972. The driver checks the condition of the collapsed bridge on which the locomotive is stuck, Canada, 1926. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Hugh Hefner, and Wilt Chamberlain at a meeting demonstrating the difference in height and build, 1970s. Teenagers are chatting in an empty school auditorium, Massachusetts, USA, 1950. The prototype of the Lincoln Futura car, introduced in 1955. In 1966, it was converted into the famous Batmobile for the Batman television series. Actor Robert Shaw during the filming of the cult horror film Jaws, 1975, next to the animatronic shark used in the film. Female students in Dhaka, Bangladesh, marching with rifles in their hands during protests against the Pakistani military leadership in 1970, amid the growing independence movement. Fidel Castro photographs Nikita Khrushchev and his family on a Polaroid, USSR, 1963, during the visit of the Cuban delegation. A White Star Line passenger ticket issued to Charles Asplund for travel in the emigrant class for 7 people, including 4 adults. The document is dated April 1912 and refers to the voyage of the Titanic. Soviet soldiers on the attack during fierce fighting on the Eastern Front in 1941. The scene captures the moment of the offensive in conditions of dense smoke typical of artillery attacks. Donald Trump and Michael Jackson during a flight aboard a private jet, 1990. The last photo of Marilyn Monroe, taken at the morgue in August 1962, shortly after her death. In July 2014, a powerful explosion occurred in Yamal, which resulted in a crater with a diameter and depth of about 40 meters. There were no casualties, but soon 2 more similar sinkholes appeared nearby. The main version of scientists is the release of methane due to the melting of permafrost, but it remains controversial. The Antikythera mechanism is an ancient Greek device found in the early 20th century on a sunken ship off the island of Antikythera. Created around 100 BC, it was a complex system of bronze gears capable of calculating the astronomical positions of the stars, the dates of eclipses, and the Olympic Games. The precision of its manufacture was significantly ahead of the technical capabilities of the era. Enzo Ferrari, the founder of Ferrari, died in 1988. About a month later, the future footballer Mesut Ozil was born, whose face is strikingly similar to that of the legendary automaker. The similarity is so great that it often becomes a reason to talk about the phenomenon of doppelgangers through the generations. In 1895, 2 cars collided in Ohio. It is noteworthy that at that time, only 2 vehicles were registered in the entire state, and they were the ones who crashed. In 1957, Akron salesman Lawrence Bader vanished during a storm. 4 days later, John Fritz Johnson appeared in Omaha and gained local fame. In 1965, fingerprints proved he was Bader, but he claimed total amnesia. Psychiatrists believed him, and the mystery lasted until his death in 1966. In July 1975, 17-year-old Erskine Lawrence Eben from Bermuda died after colliding with a taxi on a moped. Almost a year earlier, his brother, also 17, died in a similar accident on the same moped. The taxi was driven by the same driver, and he was carrying the same passenger. American writer Anne Parrish accidentally found a collection of fairy tales, Jack Frost, and other stories in a Paris bookstore, which she loved as a child. Flipping through the book, she remembered her attachment to this publication and told her husband about it. On the inside of the cover, she found her childhood name and address, realizing that it was her copy from childhood. A glass container receptionist carries a tall stack of crates with empty bottles along a Moscow street, the USSR, the 1950s. Such bottles were handed over for reuse in the beverage industry. Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, 1974. The picture was taken at the Motown label's recording studio in the USA. Both musicians were actively working on their projects at that time, defining the sound of popular music of the 1970s. The French transatlantic liner Normandy crashed in February 1942 at a pier in New York. The ship, requisitioned by the U.S. Navy for conversion into a transport, caught fire during work and turned on its side. Macaulay Culkin and Joe Pesci, 1990. The shot was taken during filming or promotional events for the movie Home Alone, where the actors played opposing roles. In the photo, Pesci jokingly imitates a threatening scene, which has become one of his character's calling cards. Mobile Confession, presumably USA, 1940s. The structure was a portable confessional mounted on a tricycle, which allowed the priest to move and receive confession in different places of the city. This format provided access to the ceremony for those who could not attend church. Women in swimsuits are trying to push a sunken BMW car out of the water. Germany, 1934. The car is stuck in a shallow area, and the swimmers are trying to manually pull it to shore. Sigourney Weaver, the 1980s. The actress poses with a garden hose in an unusual and ironic photo shoot. This image contrasts with her iconic movie roles at the time, showing a more playful side of her public image. British colonialists and local guides pose against the skins of tigers and leopards after hunting in India, 1905. Such trophy hunts were popular among the colonial elite and were considered a status symbol. King Constantine II of Greece and Prince Juan Carlos the Berceur of Spain practiced karate on the island of Kerkyra, 1966. The moment is captured in the midst of sparring when Constantine performs a jump shot. Sailors and a woman in a revealing outfit walk along Hollywood Boulevard, Los Angeles, 1992. The author of the photo is Gregory Hinsdale. Hollywood Boulevard is known as the center of the city's tourist life and the location of the Walk of Fame. A radiologist nurse in a protective suit, 1918. Such equipment was used to protect against radiation in the early stages of the use of X-ray machines. Martin Scorsese and Robert De Niro, the 1970s. Their creative union began during this period and later led to the creation of a number of cult films, including Taxi Driver and Nice Guys. Alfred Langwin, the 1930s. He is known for his unique ability to release smoke through his eyes while smoking a pipe in an unusual way. Mobile Lifeguard Tower on the Beach, Germany, 1929. The design allowed rescuers to observe the swimmers moving along the coast. The last lifetime photo of Princess Diana. She gets into a Mercedes in which she will die in a car accident half an hour later. Paris, France, 1997. An apparatus for radiography of the oral cavity. It was used in the 1920s when radiation protection was minimal and procedures were carried out without modern safety measures. A Catholic priest blesses a French military airplane before a combat flight during the First World War. France, 1915. Prince Mikhail Dolgorukov, a representative of an ancient Russian family, arrested during the Stalinist repressions. The photo was taken shortly before his execution in 1937. Two young women in mini dresses pose against the background of a brightly colored double-decker bus in London. The picture reflects the atmosphere of the fashionable 1960s, when the Mini became a symbol of freedom and youth culture in the UK. Models demonstrate the changes in women's swimwear over half a century at the 1939 New York World's Fair. The photo shows styles from closed suits of the 19th century to modern separate models for that time. Ernest Hemingway is behind bars during one of the noisy parties, raising a glass in a playful toast. The picture reflects his famous love of a fun and carefree atmosphere. During the Industrial Revolution in England, divorce was too expensive and difficult for the working class, so some men sold their wives. The procedure was unofficial, but local authorities often turned a blind eye to it. Wives were sometimes put up for auction, where they were bought by a new husband. And young Brad Pitt and the school basketball team rejects. The photo captures the future Hollywood star in his sporting years. An illustration from a Russian book on jujutsu for police officers, published in 1905. The manual taught techniques for detaining and neutralizing the enemy without using weapons. A rare experiment of the early 20th century is a mechanical horse on a wheelbase that combines the aesthetics of horse, drawn vehicles, and the capabilities of motorized vehicles. The front part imitated a horse, but the engine was hidden inside, and a motorcycle structure with a seat was located at the back. An unusual geometric hairstyle and Afro style, created in 1965 with the help of 2 electric cars. This image became an example of combining the fashion of that time with an artistic approach to hairdressing. A woman of the Ainu people with a traditional tattoo in the form of a smile, 1960. Such tattoos were applied to girls in stages from childhood and symbolized maturity, beauty, and readiness for marriage, and also had a ritual meaning associated with protection from evil spirits. A young couple listens to a gramophone on the pier, Germany, 1935. Portable gramophones were a popular way to enjoy music outdoors at the time, especially among young people who appreciated romance and privacy. Experimental Delackner Aerocycle, tested at Fort Eustis, Virginia, USA, 1956. The vehicle was designed to carry 1 soldier, but was deemed too dangerous due to the exposed rotating propellers and the lack of protection for the pilot. NASA astronauts relax in zero gravity aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger during the 1983 mission. A pearl diver on the Mississippi River, 1938, uses homemade diving equipment, a helmet made from an old fuel tank, allowing him to dive up to 21 meters and stay underwater for up to an hour and a half. Prisoners play chess through the bars of their cells, 1972. A British Army bicycle with a rifle mount, used at the beginning of the First World War, 1914. In April 1918, the German submarine UB-85, according to its captain, Gunther Kretsch, was attacked by a sea monster while charging its batteries. A creature with a small head and shiny fangs tried to capsize the ship, but was scared off by the crew's fire. The damage prevented the submarine from sinking, and she surrendered to a British patrol. In 2016, an object similar to UB-85 was found at the bottom of the North Sea, which revived the legend. Wedding dress of the future, Empress Catherine II's, 18th century. New York's first licensed female hairdresser, Miss Jean Devereux, poses for a photographer while shaving a client, 1927. A way to combat vagrancy in the United States at the beginning of the 20th century. Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet on the set of Titanic, 1996. A beauty contest in Chicago, where the winners were determined by X-rays, 1956. Sophia Loren plays billiards with American soldiers in Livorno, Italy, 1954. Claudia Cardinale on the set of Once Upon a Time in the Wild West, Italy, 1968. Sylvester Stallone in 1979 in Malibu, California, while walking down the street in swimming trunks with a Sunday newspaper in his hands. These pictures were taken during the period of his growing popularity after the release of the movie Rocky. 2 engineers stand at the giant wind tunnel at NASA's Ames Research Center, 1960. The huge structure was used to test aviation and space technology in flight simulating conditions. In 1966, Tom Gledhill jumped over a formation of more than 20 soldiers of the Royal Artillery on a motorcycle at a speed of about 72 km/h. All the participants were lying on the ground in hard hats, creating an obstacle course for the stunt. Workers control the drying process of long pasta on an industrial line. The paste bundles are suspended on a wooden frame and move slowly to dry evenly. Young pioneers in the aircraft modeling circle are discussing the construction of a wooden airplane model. On the table are the tools and the propeller needed for assembly. Similar clubs in the USSR in the 1950s developed children's technical thinking and skills in working with materials. Photos of 10 participants of the 1981 Irish hunger strike who died in Mays prison, demanding recognition of the status of political prisoners for members of the Irish Republican Army. The protests lasted from March to October and drew the attention of the world community to the conflict in Northern Ireland. Among the dead is Bobby Sands, who was elected a member of the British Parliament during a hunger strike. In the 1930s and 40s, brothers Homer and Langley Collier from Harlem accumulated about 120 tons of junk in their house. In 1947, the police found Homer dead of exhaustion, and Langley died in a garbage trap while trying to feed him. The house was demolished, and a park named after the brothers was created in its place. Tokyo, 1953. Red payphones have become a symbol of Japan's transition to modern communications. By 1961, they had provided long-distance calls across the country. Burma, 1933. Peidaong women have been wearing metal rings since childhood, creating the effect of an elongated neck. The custom became a tourist curiosity during the colonial era. Texas, the 1930s. A man collects prickly pear, which was used as livestock feed during a drought after burning the thorns. San Francisco, 1969. An action against the wearing of bras as a symbol of female oppression. This gesture became a landmark moment of the feminist movement of the late 60s. Texas, 1957. In the heyday of drive-ins, some establishments installed cooling air supply systems directly into customers' cars. It was part of the American car culture. Los Angeles, 1951. Amid the fear of a nuclear threat, private and public bomb shelters were massively built in the United States. Los Angeles, 1942. Girls on the beach arrange a walk on high wooden stilts, a popular entertainment then. Such fun was a part of beach culture and summer shows. Florida, 1926. A crocodile farm worker stands among dozens of reptiles, holding them at a safe distance with a long pole. ENISA OV-18 satellite, 1966. An experimental device with an inflatable body with a diameter of about 3 meters was used to study the upper atmosphere. Despite its impressive size, it weighed only about 10 kilothores. Al Capone and his closest associates, Chicago, 1928. At the height of Prohibition, his organization controlled alcohol, gambling, and prostitution. Capone's influence extended from the streets to politicians, and conflicts were resolved by force. Fred Astaire, 1941. The dancer is among dozens of worn pairs of shoes, each of which keeps a trace of his performances. This shot reflects years of hard work and dedication to the stage. Fred Trump and his son, Donald, New York, 1970. Against the backdrop of the residential complexes built by their company, the future president of the United States was just starting his way into business. Nicolas Cage at the peak of his youth, 1985. During this period, he was actively filming and forming his recognizable screen image. Audrey Hepburn on the set of the movie Sabrina in 1953. Even in between takes, she maintained impeccable style and sophistication. In 1923, at the New York racetrack, jockey Frank Hayes died of a heart attack right during the race. His horse, which was considered an outsider with a 20.1 bet, finished first. This was the only recorded case of winning a horse race with a dead jockey. The final of the first American football Super Bowl, USA, 1967. Quarterback Len Dawson of the Kansas City Chiefs is relaxing in the locker room with a bottle of Fresca and a cigarette in his hands. In those days, such habits of athletes were not considered unusual. A road sign in Afghanistan, 1955, separates the paths for cars and animals. Such signs simplified navigation in regions where traditional transport was adjacent to motorized transport. President John F. Kennedy works at his desk in the Oval Office while his son, John F. Kennedy Jr., plays in the niche of the Resolute desk, 1962. This moment became one of the most famous family shots of the White House. The invention of 1932 is glasses with built, in miniature flashlights designed for easy reading in the dark. The device was powered by a portable battery pack connected by wires to the rim. In Venice in the 1950s, a tourist tries to navigate the canals on jet skis using long poles for rowing. This way of riding was more fun than real transportation. The King of the Kingdom of Cuba in 1947 is depicted in traditional regalia, decorated with beads, fabrics, and feathers. The state was located on the territory of the modern Democratic Republic of the Congo, in the basin of the Sankuru, Lulua, and Kasai rivers. Sharon Tate, Hollywood actress and model, pictured shortly before her death in August 1969. At the time of the shooting, she was 9 months pregnant. Shortly after, her life was tragically cut short by an attack by members of the Charles Manson sect. The Jenny Boaters brothel in Arizona was famous throughout the Wild West at the end of the 19th century. The establishment served not only as a place of entertainment, but also as an important part of the local economy. A photograph from 1896 captured both female workers and visitors against the backdrop of a building typical of that time. A charity event in 1982 allowed for $1 to hit a car to raise funds for families affected by the crisis in the American automotive industry. In the 1970s and 80s, Japanese cars, due to their economy and reliability, displaced the bulky muscle cars of the USA from the market. This led to layoffs, protests, and the symbolic destruction of foreign cars. Demonstration of the Christie M1928 tank at the Capitol Building, 1929. The car could reach speeds of up to 72 km/h and could switch from tracks to wheels. Although the U.S. Army considered the project too expensive, its design influenced the development of the Soviet BT and T-34 tanks. A couple in a convertible in the hills of Los Angeles, 1951. Hollywood at night glimmers in the background, creating an atmosphere of freedom and romance. Children work at a textile factory in Georgia, 1909. Due to poverty, many families sent their children to work in difficult and dangerous conditions, often for 10 to 12 hours a day. This practice was one of the reasons for the introduction of child labor laws in the United States. A newspaper delivery boy is sleeping on the steps, clutching a stack of publications to himself. In 1912, child labor was widespread in the United States, and children often worked from early morning until late at night. A young couple with a child, caught in the lens of Dorothea Lange, stands on the deserted side of the US 99 highway in California. During the Great Depression, thousands of families were forced to leave their homes in search of work and food. Wounded British soldiers recover while sunbathing in a Rouen hospital during the First World War. Such stage photos were used to reassure the population, showing the light side of frontline life. They hid the harsh realities of the war, creating an image of rapid recovery and caring for the soldiers. A street vendor in a suit completely covered in peanuts, USA, circa 1890. Such extravagant images were used to attract the attention of customers and set them apart from competitors. Such marketing was unusual even by the standards of the late 19th century. Victorian photographs, circa 1850, show the stages of putting on a crinoline dress with a massive frame. Such outfits were worn by representatives of high society at special events. A sailor in Harwich, Essex, demonstrates a fish stunned by a depth charge explosion on April 15, 1918. Similar methods have been used to combat submarines, but sometimes they have yielded unexpected catches. A secret witness in disguise testifies at a drug trial in Washington, April 30, 1952. The identity of the witness was concealed to protect him from possible pressure or reprisals. Such security measures were rarely used in the courts of those years. Students of the Liverpool Drama School practiced the technique of stage slaps on classmates 1939. These classes helped the actors to safely portray conflicts on stage while maintaining realism and preventing injury. A cyclist descends the steps on a penny farthing, demonstrating a risky trick, 1885. Such scenes were popular among thrill seekers at the end of the 19th century, despite the high risk of falls. members of the New York Fat Men's Club, 1904. The organization brought together men weighing over 100 kilograms and held regular meetings and photo shoots. The electric taxis were electric taxis that plied New York City in 1898. These cars were battery-powered, providing a quiet and smoke-free ride in an era when the streets were filled with horse-drawn carriages. Lipstick tester, 1960s. The man tested the durability in shades of lipstick, allowing makeup artists to apply dozens of kisses on his head and face. This kind of work helped cosmetics companies select the ideal formulas for mass production. Shelves with forgotten umbrellas in the Roman Lost and Found office, Italy, 1964. Hundreds of umbrellas left by passengers in transport, cafes, and institutions of the city were stored here. For many owners, they remained unclaimed, turning into silent evidence of rainy days. A girl in frozen underwear, Norway, 1963. The winter frost turned the laundry on the rope into hard, frozen shapes. The child is watching this simple but unusual sight with interest. Germany, the early 1920s, the period of hyperinflation. Prices were rising so fast that workers were paid twice a day, so they could spend it before it became worthless. People rushed to the shops immediately after receiving the money, fearing that in a few hours they would be able to buy much less for the same amount. In 1921, rubber masks were in fashion, which, according to the promises of manufacturers, were supposed to smooth out wrinkles and remove age spots. They were worn at home, combined with everyday activities, such as working at a typewriter. This is not a historically verified photo of Prince Charles and Princess Diana, but a fake widely circulated online. It is known that the original image refers to a private beach shot by unknown people, which was later attributed to the royal couple. The plastic surgery clinic in Beverly Hills, 1983, had a glass wall between the operating room and a luxurious dining room. Patients or guests could observe the procedures without interrupting the meal. Dr. Francis Benedict's device, 1935, was used to measure human metabolic rate. The subject wore a sealed metal helmet connected to a system of tubes and devices for analyzing respiratory gases. The method made it possible to assess energy consumption and metabolism in the body. The Ocean Dome in Miyazaki is the largest indoor beach of its time, opened in 1993. The temperature under the sliding roof was about +130 degrees all year round, and artificial waves and sand created the illusion of a real tropical coast. In 1996, the complex attracted thousands of visitors daily, despite the high cost of admission. Operation Plumbob was a series of nuclear tests at the Nevada test site conducted by the United States in 1957. In the photo, journalists record the moment of the explosion from a safe distance. These tests were used to assess the effects of nuclear weapons on military equipment, structures, and people. Los Angeles police officer Florence Coberly in 1952 prepares for an operation to apprehend a rapist. In the photo, she holds a revolver and a purse while working undercover. This picture has become one of the symbols of women's participation in dangerous special police missions. In September 1986, a grand release of almost 1.5 million balloons was held in Cleveland, organized by United Way as part of a charity event. The event set a world record but led to unforeseen consequences, including disruptions to the airport and difficulties in search and rescue operations. A skull with perfectly preserved braids, estimated to be about 300 years old. Such finds are extremely rare, as hair and complex hairstyles are preserved only under special conditions of mummification or burial. The Sibiu manuscript is a 450-page document from the 16th century, discovered in the 1960s. It contains detailed information on artillery, ballistics, and drawings of multi-stage missiles. The author, Conrad Haas, described and, according to him, successfully launched such a rocket in 1555. Violet Jessup is a British flight attendant and nurse who has survived 3 major maritime disasters. She was on board the Olympic liner during the collision with the Hawk cruiser, on the Britannica during the mine explosion, and on the Titanic during its sinking. For this, she received the nickname Miss Unsinkable. In 1838, Edgar Allan Poe published the novel The Tale of the Adventures of Arthur Gordon Pym, where shipwrecked sailors ate a cabin boy named Richard Parker. 46 years later, there was a real shipwreck with an identical case of cannibalism, and the victim was also named Richard Parker. The coincidence gave rise to rumors that Poe allegedly had a time machine. Thank you for watching to the end. If you liked it, please like and subscribe. There are even more rare and amazing stories ahead.